What's up YouTubers, it's RoadDog28 back again for another YouTube video. This one is going to be a different video about Game of Thrones. As you can probably tell from behind me, I'm a massive watcher of Game of Thrones, and Season 6 has gotten well underway, and this is going to be my mid-Season 6 review of Game of Thrones. So if you watch it and you're not caught up yet, I'm going to give you some time to turn off and go watch something else now. Okay, so Season 6 of Game of Thrones is well and truly underway, and the great news is that Jon Snow is alive, and he's definitely not dead, and Sansa Stark and Jon Snow have finally reunited at the Wall, and it was such a beautiful, special moment, just them seeing each other and hugging each other with like Brienne in the background, and you know, things are finally starting to come good, and it seems a lot this season especially that women really are sort of on the rise and taking power for themselves, and you can definitely see that in the case of like Daenerys, Sansa, you know, Brienne as well, not so much Marjorie at the moment, but you know, there's a lot of women starting to sort of take the power back from the men, sort of like a reversal of like patriarchy sort of. So let's start with what's happening in the north at the moment. So as I said, Jon Snow and Sansa Stark have reunited. Sansa, having come from Winterfell, escaped from Ramsay Bolton. Brienne had like found her and brought her to the Wall to meet up with Jon Snow. Just as Jon Snow was leaving, they like pretty much made it so that they could meet up, which was really, really amazing. Apparently, like supposedly, you would think that they would have spoken together about what things have happened. I mean, like Sansa probably would have been like, yeah, I was raped by Ramsay Bolton several times, sexually assaulted several times, and basically is a massive twat. And then supposedly Jon Snow would have explained about the White Walkers, you'd think, and that they're a massive threat to the whole of Westeros and that we need to do something about it. You know, and before receiving the pink letter, he was pretty much saying that I'm just going to go back to the south for a holiday where it's warmer. But you know, the pink letter came from Ramsay Bolton and sending loads of threats saying, hey bastard, I'm gonna rape your sister, I'm gonna set the hounds on your brother, I'm gonna basically kill everyone up, flay them alive, do all sorts of crazy shit, so come at me bro, I'm challenging you, let's get it on, basically, let's have it out. Which I think Jon Snow is, by the looks of it, accepting. And you know, Sansa and Jon Snow have sort of now teamed up and kind of are wanting a lot of revenge based on the whole like shit fuckery that have happened to their family. And you know, you'd think that that's what they'd want to do, considering you know everything that's happened with the Starks. So yeah, it's really great that Jon Snow has still got the wildlings on his side, even though in my opinion I wasn't really expecting them to say yes, because it's not necessarily their fight. But I think that Tormund is like really like best buds with Jon Snow by this point, so I think they're sort of ready to go. And so I think what I'm expecting is like a massive showdown between the Boltons and you know Jon Snow and Sansa's army. And we did hear from Peter like Littlefinger down in the Vale that he's going to try and get he's obviously heard about what happened to Sansa and with Ramsay, and sort of is playing a game where he sort of wants to like form an army and like send them to the Wall to fight with Jon Snow's army, so there'll be sort of like a massive battle between you know the Boltons and the Starks pretty much, and that would be pretty cool. And then I think that's a long game towards getting Winterfell back, so that you know they could then unite that part of the north and then sort of get everyone back together to fight the wildlings? The White Walkers. So I think everyone's playing a pretty long game at this point to get to, you know, certain different points. Personally, I would really love it if Ramsay Bolton got his comeuppance and got a taste of his own medicine, whereby he got flayed himself and then got eaten by a bunch of direwolves, because there are still like the direwolves that belong to Bran, which is Summer. Ghost still is alive, and also Arya's direwolf, who apparently is sort of got her own pack up in the mountains and is like a proper alpha wolf now. That's Nymeria. So hopefully like we'll see like some of those sort of aspects come forward, and I'd really love it if Ramsay Bolton got devoured alive by a bunch of direwolves, and that would really be a kick up his own arse and a taste of his own medicine, wouldn't it? So in terms of what's going on in King's Landing, everything's sort of going a bit to shit in terms of, you know, support for the Lannisters. They're not really in good standing at the moment. They're not really liked at all by anyone who lives in the city. The Tyrells don't really like the Lannisters because like they've got two of their like sons and daughters in the dungeon, imprisoned by the High Sparrow and the Sept, which isn't really looking great, and it's kind of looking like it's going to be a civil war between like the Lannisters and the Tyrells against the High Sept and all of that, like religious zealots. And you know, as I said, like the Tyrells and the Lannisters don't really like each other much anymore, but I think they're going to team together to like fight the biggest of the evils in that case. And you know, down in the dungeons, we saw a little bit of Loras and Margaery sort of suffering, and you know, it looks like Margaery might suffer the same fate as Cersei, where she kind of walked nude through King's Landing and got stuff thrown at her, which wasn't pretty. So I sort of hope that Margaery won't get that, and she's clever enough to sort of try and find a way out of it. But Loras isn't looking too good, and it looks, by the looks of things, it's looking like he's being tortured for his beliefs and sexuality. So hopefully something good will come out of that. So something else that's also going on in Slaver's Bay is that Tyrion is now sort of in charge of that whole area, along with like Missandei and Grey Worm, who are just sort of like tagging along as advisors and sort of trying to help Tyrion make decisions. Even though Tyrion likes to think that he's very good at making decisions as well, which he is, and he goes into talks with the slavers, talking about how to end slavery, and how to deal with the Sons of the Harpy, who are like going on a rampage and like basically killing everybody. So Tyrion, as he is, he's very democratic and likes to talk a lot and likes to drink a lot, so he goes into talks with the slavers and tries to think of a way to try and end slavery. And he says to Missandei and Grey Worm, he's like, well, war is awful and should be abolished, slavery is really awful, should be abolished. I can only do one of those things today, and I'm going to try and end slavery by giving the slavers a 7-year period to sort of break it down and eventually like have it come to an end. And obviously like the slavers are a bit like, fuck no, am I gonna do that? Like, I'm making my money and I'm like getting my slaves, so I'm not gonna agree to you. Even though they didn't actually say that, they just sort of half agreed. And Tyrion thinks that that's a really good idea, and obviously Missandei, who has lived as a slave for a long time, is like, 7 years is a long time for a slave, and do you really think that's going to work? And is really apprehensive about Tyrion's idea. So we're going to have to see where that goes, and whether Tyrion's plan will work, and whether Daenerys will come back eventually with her dragons and completely disagree with what Tyrion's doing, whether he thinks it's democratic or not, and whether or not the slavers will then break into civil war with Daenerys and Tyrion, etc. And that leads me quite nicely onto what's happening with Daenerys, who has gone to Vaes Dothrak, which is where the widows of the Khal go when their Khal dies. And basically at the beginning of the episode, the widows and the Dothraki have to decide what her fate will be, because she didn't originally go straight to Vaes Dothrak when Khal Drogo died, so apparently that's a crime. So she goes there to be judged, and basically shit goes down in a massive fiery way. So Daenerys goes into the Dothraki temple to be judged by the Khals, who basically tell her that, like, I can own you, and like you can remarry and be my wife, and then you can either like be mine, or you can be like a slave and like just get raped, and my horses will rape you, and my other Khals will rape you if you don't do what we say. And obviously like Daenerys is like really well understanding their language, and you know, she's not stupid. So she's like, well, I was the wife of a Carl and I thought I was gonna rule, and I can rule, and I'm basically stronger than any of you guys put together. You guys will never rule the Dothraki, but I can. And they just laugh at her and think she's just a white-haired girl, just completely doesn't know what she's doing, is completely stupid. Whereas we know, and she knows, that she does know what the fuck she's doing, and therefore pushes the entire fire crates on top of them, burns the house down, comes through the door with the burning everything, burning on fire, and she's naked, obviously, naked, and everyone sees her come out the door, like, completely unburnt, Daenerys the unburnt, and is like, I'm queen, I am untouchable, and I'm a goddess, and everyone just literally bows down to her. And you know, she is like breaker of chains, unburnt, mother of dragons, and it's literally come full circle where she's now got a massive horde of Dothraki on her side, so she can then go back to Slavers Bay and, you know, defeat everyone there, defeat Sons of the Harpy, and then hopefully with her 3 dragons, which we're yet to see in this season, go to Westeros and sort of, you know, figure things out from there and be a badass bitch. What I also think is kind of interesting is that I think by the time Daenerys gets across to Westeros with her 3 dragons, that will be the point where the White Walkers would really have an impact across like much of the land, and would have kind of invaded quite a lot of it, by which point everyone there would be like, what the hell do we do against them? So Daenerys will have her 3 dragons, and as we know, dragon fire is like a really effective weapon against them. So I think the dragons will come really in handy when it comes to defeating the whole of the White Walker horde. So moving on quickly to what happens to Theon. He has gone home back to the Iron Islands to meet up with his sister Yara, and who isn't really very keen and pleased to see him at all, considering the way that he's been treated, considering how Yara tried to save him a couple of seasons back from Ramsay, who pretty much broke him completely. He is so much less of the man that he was, and Yara knows that, and she just keeps asking him what he wants. What do you want? What do you want? And I think he just wants to like have a home and like be accepted somewhere and kind of try to make amends for the things that he's done, which have been pretty shit, to be honest. I think Yara's she wants to make a claim to be like the leader of the Iron Islands and like claim the Salt Throne, which a woman has never done before, so there's another example of like women claiming back the power. And you also have Euron in the mix as well, who also wants to claim power and leadership, so I think that would be a pretty interesting battle. So yeah, that's what's going on in the Iron Islands. I'm not entirely sure what how that story will play out yet, and where those 2 characters, Yara and Theon, will go eventually. But yeah, I really like Yara. I think she's a really underrated character, and she's got a lot of intelligence, and I think she's quite tactical, and she's got good leadership skills. So I really am interested to see where her character goes. So lastly, the 2 other characters I've not spoken about yet, Bran and Arya. Bran at the moment is still at the tree in the north. I can't remember the Weirwood tree, with the 3-eyed raven guy, who is basically teaching him how to warg and like go back in time and like see what's happening. So I think he's still going to be like learning that, and in the trailer for the next episode we see him like next to one of the White Walkers, which is kind of quite eerie, quite scary, so I'm really excited to see what happens with that. And you see Meera trying to like shake him awake, so I think you've got sort of like a mirroring of what happened to Jojen Reed, where like his warging made him have fits, and I think that sort of might happen to Bran, but we'll see where that goes. And also Arya, who is still in the House of Black and White, learning to be sort of an assassin, and she's got her sight back now. I didn't think we saw her in this episode, but The last episode she got given her sight back for like learning how to fight properly with like not being able to see, and the waif has sort of been a bit of a bitch to her, like beating her up loads of times, but I think it's like it's good practice and it's given her a lot of backbone. But at the same time, I do not think that she has become no one yet, and I do think that she still remembers a lot of like the stuff that has happened to her and the fact that she really wants revenge over everyone on her list. And I do not think that she's going to forget all of those things in a hurry, even though she's getting taught how to be no one, and you know, they think that she is going to be no one and is learning, but I don't think that she's forgotten. So yeah, that's the end of my mid-season Game of Thrones review. If you've got any questions or theories or comments, like what do you think is going to happen to Rickon Stark and what's going to happen with Jon Snow and Sansa, is there going to be a massive battle, particular characters, who are your favourites, what's going to happen with Daenerys and the Three Dragons, I'd really love to know what you think, so put your comments down in the bottom, and I will see you guys in another episode. Bye!